For 2 years, Camila walked past his office like she was invisible. Every morning at exactly 8:30, she placed his coffee on the edge of his glass desk. No eye contact. No thank you. No acknowledgement. Just the cold silence of a Korean billionaire who never looked twice at his black secretary. Camila never complained. She handled his meetings, covered his scandals, fixed his mistakes before the board ever noticed, while he treated her like part of the furniture. Until the night of the company gala. The music was soft. The lights were golden. And for the first time, Camila wasn't standing behind him with a clipboard. She was on the dance floor, laughing, spinning, her hand resting on another man's shoulder. And that's when it happened. For the first time in 2 years, he looked at her. Not as his secretary, not as an employee, but as a woman. And when another man's hand slid confidently around her waist, something dark and possessive rose in his chest. The cold billionaire who never cared suddenly couldn't breathe. Because in that moment, he realized something terrifying. He didn't ignore her. He avoided her. Because wanting her was the one thing he could never afford. Before I continue, if you're ready for this jealousy, tension, and intriguing love story that will leave you breathless, tap like, subscribe to this channel, and drop where you're watching from in the comment section because this story is only getting started. Back to the story. The music throbbed softly through the golden-lit ballroom. Camila felt his eyes on her before she even turned. Park Jae-min did not look away. He stood by the bar, black suit sharp against the warm glow of the chandeliers, his expression colder than the champagne he was holding. The kind of cold that had once made employees nervous enough to avoid the elevator when he entered. But tonight was different. Because tonight, Camila was not standing behind him. She was dancing. And he hated how naturally she fit into the rhythm of the music, like she had always belonged somewhere outside of his carefully controlled world. Daniel's hand rested lightly on her waist as they moved slowly across the dance floor. "You seem tense," Daniel said quietly. "I always seem tense to people who think I work too hard," she replied with a small smile. "And to people who don't know you well enough." She didn't respond. Because Daniel was not wrong. For 2 years, she had been Park Jae-min's shadow. Not officially, but practically. She handled his calls, managed his meetings, fixed problems before they reached his desk. She had watched him win boardroom battles with ruthless precision. But she had also watched him eat lunch alone in his office while staring out of the glass windows like he was somewhere far away. She had told herself she did not care. That was what survival looked like in spaces where you were tolerated, not noticed. Then she heard it. Her name. Camila. Low. Controlled. Dangerous. She closed her eyes briefly before turning around. Jaemin was standing behind her and Daniel now, close enough that she could feel the tension radiating from him like static electricity. "Yes, sir," she said automatically. The word came out before she could stop it. His jaw tightened slightly. "Stop calling me that tonight," he said quietly. Daniel raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "Then what should I call you?" Camila asked. The question was not sarcastic. It was genuine. And it made Jaemin uncomfortable in ways he could not explain. "Mr. Park is fine," he said. Silence followed. The three of them stood there in the middle of the dancing crowd while couples moved around them like water flowing around rocks. "You were not at your station earlier," he said. "My station," she repeated. "You know what I mean." She tilted her head slightly. "I was on break." "Employees are allowed breaks, Mr. Park." Something flashed in his eyes, irritation mixed with something darker. "You are not just any employee," he said. The words came out sharper than he intended. Daniel smiled slightly, sensing the shift in atmosphere. "I'll give you two some space," Daniel said smoothly. "But Camila, I enjoyed our dance." She nodded politely. "Thank you." As Daniel walked away, The distance between her and Jamin suddenly felt smaller, more intense. "You shouldn't be dancing with investors like that," Jamin said. "That was not a professional statement," she replied calmly. "I am being professional." "No," she said softly. "You are being territorial." The word hung in the air like a challenge. His eyes darkened. "You think this is a game?" he asked. "No," she said. "I think this is the first time you've realized I have a life outside your company." That struck deeper than she expected. Because for a moment, something inside his expression cracked. Just slightly. Then it disappeared behind his usual cold control. "You are valuable to this company," he said. She nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "I am." The unspoken words between them were louder than the music. Valuable. Not irreplaceable. She turned to leave. "Camila," he said again. She stopped but did not face him. "You look different tonight," he said. She smiled faintly. "Because I am not working tonight." She walked back toward the dance floor. And Jamin did something he had never done before. He stayed. He watched her dance with Daniel again. Watched her laugh. Watched the way other men in the room started noticing her now that she was no longer standing behind him in silence. And something inside his chest twisted painfully. Because he realized something terrifying. For 2 years, he had not been ignoring her. He had been protecting himself from wanting her. And now that she was no longer invisible, he was afraid someone else would take what he had never allowed himself to have. Across the ballroom, Camila felt it. The weight of his gaze. This time, she did not try to hide the small smile forming on her lips. Because for the first time in 2 years, Park Jae-min was the one watching. And she was the one being seen. The gala should have been ending. Instead, tension was just beginning. Jamin stood near the balcony doors, watching the city lights of Seoul glitter beneath the night sky like distant stars he could never reach. Behind him, conversations about investments and partnerships continued, but he was barely listening. Because he was thinking about Camila. 2 years. He had hired her because she was efficient. Because she was calm under pressure. Because she never flinched when he raised his voice at incompetent executives. He had told himself that was why he trusted her. Not because of the way she looked at him like she was trying to understand something he had never explained. His phone buzzed. A message from his legal team. He opened it. Then he froze. Urgent. Board members are discussing merger negotiations with Lee Holdings. Daniel Lee is pushing for accelerated acquisition talks. Asterisk. Jamin's grip tightened around his phone. Daniel Lee was not just dancing with his secretary. He was negotiating leverage. Jamin turned sharply. Across the ballroom, Camila was still dancing. But she was no longer smiling as freely. Daniel was speaking to her again, voice low, serious. Jamin walked toward them. Not slowly. Not politely. Purposefully. "Camila," he said, stopping beside them. Daniel looked mildly amused. "Mr. Park." "Business interruption." "This is not business," Jamin said. Camila sighed softly. "Then what is it?" The question hit him harder than he expected. He did not have an answer he could say aloud. Instead, he said, "There is a board discussion happening tonight. You should be present." "I am off duty," she said calmly. "You are never fully off duty when you are representing me." That was the wrong thing to say. Her expression hardened slightly. "I do not represent you," she said quietly. "I represent my work." Daniel stepped in smoothly. "She seems very capable of deciding when she works, Mr. Park." Jamin's jaw tightened. He did not like Daniel speaking to him like they were equals. Especially not in front of her. "We have confidential matters to discuss," Jamin said. Daniel raised both hands slightly. "I'm not trying to steal your employee." The word employee made Camila's fingers tighten slightly around her champagne glass. She excused herself politely and walked toward the terrace doors. Jamin followed her. Outside, the night air was cooler. Quieter. The sounds of the city hummed below them. "You are using corporate authority to control who I socialize with now," she asked without turning around. "I am trying to protect company interests," he said. "Or your ego?" Silence. She turned slowly. "Do you know what the hardest part of working for you is?" she asked. He didn't answer. "You are never cruel enough to hate," she continued, "but never kind enough to matter." The words hit him like a physical blow. "I trusted you," she said quietly. 2 years of loyalty. 2 years of staying in the background while you treated me like I was just efficient. Her voice softened. "And tonight I realized something." His chest tightened. "I don't want to spend my life being invisible to someone who has the power to make me feel seen." Jamin's expression changed. Not anger. Fear. "You're leaving?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked back at the city skyline. "I have received another offer," she said. That stopped him cold. "From Daniel Lee?" "Yes." He exhaled slowly through his nose. "You would leave your position here for him?" "I would leave because I want to grow," she corrected. "Not because I want to escape you." But that distinction didn't make him feel better. It made him feel worse. Because it meant she was not emotionally dependent on him. It meant she was choosing her own future. And he had no control over it. Back inside the ballroom, chaos suddenly rippled through the crowd. Board members gathered near the stage where the company chairman was standing with a serious expression. "Ladies and gentlemen," the chairman announced, "there has been a major development." Everyone fell silent. "We have received an official acquisition proposal." Murmurs spread across the room. "From Lee Holdings." Jamin's eyes locked onto Daniel across the room. Daniel was smiling slightly. Not aggressively. Not arrogantly. Just confidently. Then the chairman continued. "However, this proposal includes a condition." Jamin felt something cold spread through his chest. "The condition is that Camila Adebayo must be retained as lead strategic consultant during merger negotiations." The room turned toward her. She froze. Daniel had just turned her from an employee into a strategic asset. And Jamin realized something terrifying. This was no longer about dancing. This was about power. And whoever controlled Camila's future would control more than business. Jamin looked at her across the room. She was staring at him now. Not frightened. Not confused. Waiting. For once, she was not following his decisions. She was waiting to see what he would do. And Jamin realized he had 2 choices. Let her walk away. Or fight for something he had spent 2 years pretending he did not want. Across the room, Daniel spoke quietly. "I hope you choose wisely, Mr. Park." The announcement changed everything. Within minutes, the ballroom was no longer celebrating. It was calculating. Executives whispered in small circles. Investors checked their phones. Journalists who had been invited as guests were already typing furiously, sensing the story unfolding in real time. Park Jamin did not move immediately. He was watching Camila. She was standing very still near the center of the room, like someone who had just been placed on a chessboard without being asked if she wanted to play. Daniel approached her first. "Camila," Daniel said quietly, "I should have told you about the condition earlier." She didn't look at him. Her eyes were still on Jamin. "You should have," she said simply. "I wanted you to know you were chosen," Daniel continued. "Not just hired." That word, chosen, lingered between them. But Camila knew the difference between being chosen and being useful. Jamin finally walked toward them. Slow. Controlled. Like a man approaching a negotiation table, he was not sure he would win. "Strategic consultant," he said quietly to her. "They want to use you as leverage." "I am not leverage," she replied immediately. "No," he said. "But they're trying to make you feel like you are." Silence stretched between them. Daniel watched the exchange like a strategist studying 2 opposing forces. "I can decline," Camila said. Jamin's eyes flickered slightly. "And stay here?" "Only if I want to," she said. That was the problem. He had never asked her what she wanted. He had assumed loyalty was enough. "You are important to this company," he said carefully. "I am important to you," she corrected softly. That caught him off guard. He didn't answer immediately, because it was true. But admitting it out loud felt like opening a door he had kept locked for years. Instead, he said, "I don't want you working for them." "That is not your decision," she said gently. "I can increase your salary, give you equity shares, promote you to executive level." She shook her head slightly. "Do you think I want money more than respect?" The question hung in the air. "I think," she continued quietly, "you're afraid of what will happen if I am not standing behind you anymore." He didn't deny it. Because she was right. He had grown used to her presence, to the quiet security of knowing she would handle problems before he even noticed them. But that was not love. That was convenience. "I don't want to be convenient to you," she said. Jamin's expression tightened. "You are not convenient," he said quietly. "You are necessary." The words surprised even him. Daniel watched them carefully. Then he spoke. "Mr. Park," Daniel said, "I will be honest. This merger proposal is not just business. It is influence. And influence in this industry comes from who controls information and strategy." He turned slightly toward Camila. "She is extremely valuable." Jamin's shoulders stiffened. "I am aware," he said coldly. Daniel smiled. "Then you understand why I want her on my side." The possessive tension between the two men thickened. Camila suddenly felt tired. Not emotionally weak. Just tired of being discussed like a resource. "I am standing right here," she said sharply. Both men went silent. "I will decide where I work," she continued. "Not because of loyalty. Not because of money. Not because of pride between two powerful men who think they can own my future." The words were quiet, but they carried power. "I will decide based on who respects my independence." She turned to Jamin. 2 years, she said. "You never asked me about my dreams." His throat tightened. "Tonight," she continued, "you are not competing with Daniel Lee." His chest tightened painfully. "You are competing with who you were to me for the past 2 years." That was worse than any business threat. Because he realized he had been cold, controlled, distant. He had believed professionalism was protection. But he had also kept her at emotional arm's length. "I don't want you to leave," he said quietly. "Not as a CEO. Not as a boss. As a man who was afraid of losing something he had only just realized he wanted." Daniel watched silently. Then he spoke. "Then you should show her, Mr. Park," Daniel said. "Not tell her." Jamin looked at Camila. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he said something he had never said to an employee. "I see you." The words were simple, but they carried weight. "I have seen you working late. I have seen you solving problems I should have solved myself. I have seen you standing beside me even when I didn't deserve it." Camila's eyes softened slightly, but she didn't speak. "And I am afraid," he continued quietly, voice almost breaking, "that I will not know how to exist in this company without you." The honesty shocked even him. But he did not take it back. Because tonight was no longer about business. Tonight was about losing or fighting for something real. Across the room, cameras were already turning toward them. The story was spreading. And somewhere deep inside Jamin's chest, a battle had already begun. Because now he knew one thing for certain. If he wanted Camila to stay, he would have to become someone worthy of standing beside her. The ballroom felt heavier now. Not loud. Not chaotic. Heavy. Like the air itself was waiting for someone to make a final decision. Park Jamin stood facing Camila, completely ignoring the phones, cameras, and investors who were now pretending not to watch them. Because this was no longer about mergers. It was about her walking away. Or staying. Camila studied him quietly. She could see the man he was trying to become, not just the ruthless CEO everyone feared, but the man who had spent years hiding behind professionalism because emotions had once cost him something he never spoke about. But she also knew something else. Respect was not built on words alone. It was built on action. I need to ask you something, Jaemin said finally. She waited. If you stay, he continued slowly, choosing each word carefully. What do you want from me? Not what he could give her. What she wanted. The question surprised her. Because for 2 years, he had never asked her what she wanted from him as a person. Not as an employee. Not as a strategist. As a woman standing in front of him. I want freedom, she said. His expression tightened slightly, but he didn't interrupt. I want to work somewhere where my ideas matter as much as my efficiency, she continued. I want to be respected, not just relied upon. She paused. And I want honesty. That last word hit him harder than any financial loss he had ever experienced. I don't want to wonder if I matter to you only when I am useful, she said quietly. The ballroom was completely silent now. Even Daniel stood at a distance, observing without interfering. Jaemin took a slow breath. Then he did something shocking. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small silver card. Not a business card. An executive partnership agreement. I prepared this before tonight, he said. Her eyebrows rose slightly. I was going to offer you full executive partnership status, he continued. Not as my assistant. Not as support staff. He handed it to her. Equal decision power. Profit sharing. Strategic authority. Silence stretched. But that is not enough, he added quietly. Her eyes lifted to his. I cannot buy your loyalty, he said. And I don't want to. That surprised her. I want to earn it, he said. Starting tonight. Her chest tightened slightly. Then show me, she said softly. How? Choose me, she said simply. Not professionally. Not financially. Emotionally. Not as an employee, she continued. Not as someone who helps you win business wars. He stepped closer. Choose me as someone you are willing to stand beside when you are not in control, she said. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he reached out slowly and took her hand. Not possessive. Not commanding. Just steady. I choose you, he said quietly. Not loudly enough for the entire ballroom to hear. Just loud enough for her to hear. And I will spend every day proving it, he added. Her eyes softened. Then suddenly, applause broke out. Not from the board. Not from executives. From guests who had been quietly watching what had felt like something more important than business. Daniel walked forward slowly. You won, Daniel said to Jaemin. Jaemin shook his head slightly. No, he said. I stopped competing. Daniel smiled faintly, then turned to Camila. You made a good choice, Daniel said. She nodded politely. Thank you for the opportunity. Daniel left without bitterness. Because he respected strength. Jaemin turned back to her. You could still leave, he said quietly. I know, she replied. Will you? She smiled faintly. Not tonight. Outside, soul lights shimmered beneath the night sky. Inside, Park Jaemin realized something he had spent 2 years running from. Love was not control. It was a risk. And for the first time in his life, he was willing to take that risk. He squeezed her hand slightly. And this time, she did not pull away. If this story touched your heart, then don't leave yet, because love, power, and destiny always have more secrets to reveal. Subscribe to the channel for more emotional Afro-Korean romance stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Like this video if you believe respect is more powerful than wealth and love. And turn on notifications so you never miss the next story, because sometimes love is not about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone willing to change for you. Tell us where you are watching from, and would you have stayed or walked away if you were Camila?